Hello and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. US President Donald Trump says he will leave the White House if the Electoral College formally confirms Joe Biden as the next president. But Trump told reporters in Washington it will be hard for him to concede, alleging massive rigging in the November 3rd election. Electors will meet on December 14th to vote for the president. Germany has surpassed 1 million COVID-19 cases with more than 15,000 deaths so far. In India, the virus has claimed more than 135,000 lives with 9.3 million infections. Meanwhile, Pakistan has reported 54 fatalities and over 3,100 cases overnight, as the death toll nears 8,000 with more than 389,000 infections. Globally, the virus has claimed at least 1.4 million lives and infected more than 60 million people. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has told the OIC that India is trying to change the demography of occupied Kashmir. Meeting OIC Secretary General Yusuf bin Ahmed Al Uthaymeen in Niger, Qureshi said the far-right Indian government is not only a threat to Indian Muslims but also jeopardizing regional peace. He urged the OIC to take a leading role in discouraging rising Islamophobia across the world. Football legend Diego Maradona was buried amid a global outpouring of grief from the streets of Buenos Aires to Naples. Huge crowds turned out to pay their respects, with many weeping, blowing kisses and praying as they filed past his coffin. Maradona died of a heart attack on Wednesday, aged 60. And in cricket, Australia have elected to bat first against India in the first one-day international at Sydney Cricket Ground. Steve Smith is back in the team, replacing the injured Mitchell Marsh. India are on a long tour in Australia consisting of 3 one-day internationals, 3 T20s and 4 test matches. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now the news in detail. US President Donald Trump says he will leave the White House if the Electoral College formally confirms Joe Biden as the next president. This is the closest Trump has come to conceding the November 3rd presidential election. Trump told reporters in Washington it will be hard for him to concede, alleging massive rigging in the polls. The Republican president reiterated that the race was far from over. Early results show Biden secured 306 votes to Trump's 232 under the Electoral College system used to pick U.S. presidents. The tally is far more than 270 needed to win, and Biden also leads the popular vote by more than 6 million. Electors will meet on December 14 to vote for the president. Germany has surpassed 1 million COVID-19 cases with more than 15,000 deaths so far. In India, the virus has claimed more than 135,000 lives with 9.3 million infections. Globally, the death toll from the virus has crossed 1.4 million with more than 60 million infections. More on coronavirus in the following report.
As 2020 draws to a close, global pandemic anxiety appears to have been dialed down a notch as the hopes of a vaccine soar. However, experts have cast doubts over the effectiveness of UK's top vaccine candidate, AstraZeneca. But the British government's chief scientific advisor says the drug is highly effective against COVID-19.
The regulator's got to look at the whole thing. They'll see the total result set, efficacy, safety, the lot, and we've got a great regulator in the UK, and they'll look at it and they'll make their decisions around it. So I think, headline results, this vaccine works, and that's very exciting, and it's going to be put forward for approval. The regulators will need to look at it and decide, and that will be true for all of the vaccines.
The situation in Turkey is worsening as the country recorded its highest daily coronavirus deaths for the fourth consecutive day. Over in Greece, healthcare workers have stopped working temporarily to demand better working conditions.
The hospitals are literally suffering. We hear of tens, hundreds of colleagues being infected by the virus. At this hospital last week, we had at least 100 colleagues that were in quarantine and about 30 of them were infected. Every day, sporadically, we have new cases, but the management doesn't inform us. And on top of everything, we are being threatened and terrorized as if employees getting infected is our fault.
In Russia, Moscow has extended self-isolation till January 15 for people above 65 years of age and those with certain health issues. South Korea has reported more than 500 new cases for a second consecutive day, while Victoria State, Australia's virus hotspot, has reported no new cases for 28 straight days.
AstraZeneca says it needs to run an additional global trial of its COVID-19 vaccine to assess the efficacy. The company's chief executive, Pascal Soriot, said the study will evaluate why a lower dose performed better than a full one. Soriot says the new study can be faster because it will need fewer subjects as the efficacy is already established. Experts said these new doubts over the effectiveness can delay its chances of approval by regulators in the US and EU. Meanwhile, the developers of Russia's Sputnik V vaccine have offered to conduct joint trials with AstraZeneca. In a Twitter post, they said that combining vaccines may prove important for revaccinations. In Pakistan, 15 people have lost their lives COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, pushing the death toll to 7,897. The health ministry says 3,113 tested positive for the virus overnight. The ministry said there are more than 45,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of nearly 390,000 countrywide cases, almost 336,000 have recovered. Meanwhile, thousands of Pakistanis are taking part in the final stage clinical trials of a vaccine made by Beijing Institute of Biotechnology. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has told the OIC that India is trying to change the occupied Kashmir's demography. Meeting with OIC Secretary General Yusuf bin Ahmed Al Uthaymeen in Niger, he said the Indian government is threatening not only its Muslim population but also jeopardizing regional peace. He also urged the OIC to take a leading role in discouraging rising Islamophobia across the world. The foreign minister is leading Pakistan's delegation at the 47th session of the OIC's Council of Foreign Ministers. He will also hold bilateral meetings with his counterparts and heads of delegations of member states on the sidelines. In Afghanistan, government forces claim to have killed 20 Taliban fighters in the last 24 hours. The Defense Ministry says 15 fighters were killed in Kandahar and 5 others in Lugar province. The ministry also claimed Kabul has destroyed 6 Taliban strongholds in the region, but the Taliban have not yet commented. This comes only days after roadside bombs in central Bamiyan city killed at least 14 people. Violence in Afghanistan remains high despite the ongoing peace talks between the Taliban and the government in Doha. The UN says the fourth session of a constitutional committee on Syria will begin on Monday in Geneva. The talks aims to hammer out the roots of the basic laws for Syria and will be facilitated by UN Special Envoy Geir Pedersen. The Office of the UN Special Envoy for Syria said talks will continue until Friday next week. Following the previous round of talks in August, Pedersen had said the talks sought to build trust between the sides. UN Deputy Special Envoy for Syria, Khwala Matar, said another session will be held in Geneva on 5th of January. Turkey and Qatar have signed 10 new deals in a joint meeting held at the presidential palace in Ankara. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Qatar's Emir Tamim Hamad Al Thani co-chaired the closed-door meeting. The two sides inked a memorandum of understanding to promote bilateral activities. Several MOUs were also signed for water administration, improved economic and monetary cooperation. Besides bilateral engagements, the two leaders discussed regional developments in Syria and Libya. Qatar's Emir had arrived in Turkey to attend a 6th meeting of the Supreme Strategic Committee. China says it will never allow anyone to encroach upon or split any part of its territory. In a briefing, a Defense Ministry spokesman said Beijing firmly opposes any official exchanges between the US and Taiwan. Ran Guoqiang said national reunification was a common aspiration of the people, and those who resist it will perish. He said the attempt of Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party to rely on foreign forces will end in vain.
Once a serious situation occurs, the Chinese People's Liberation Army will definitely take ruthless actions to resolutely safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
In France, a video of police officers beating a black man in Paris has sparked outrage nationwide and on social media.
Another incident has ignited outrage as French authorities grapple with long-standing accusations of police racism and brutality. 3 French policemen followed a black man inside his music studio in Paris after they saw him without a face mask. They threw a tear gas grenade at the studio, shouted racial abuse at him, and took him in custody for 48 hours. While the police say they have suspended one officer seen in the viral video, critics have dismissed it as an eyewash. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin says the police watchdog is investigating the allegations. The French government is also currently under fire for pushing a bill that is widely being criticized for providing more cover for police brutality. However, after this incident, it has called for revision of the bill.
Britain is planning to impose a new competition regime next year to prevent Google and Facebook from pushing out smaller firms. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority said it will enforce the courts to keep the tech giants in check. The UK's Digital Secretary Oliver Dowden said concentration of power in few companies has curtailed growth and reduced innovation. He said it was now time to address the issues of small firms and unleash a new age of technology growth. The 2 US companies have said they are committed to working with the UK and giving users greater control over advertisements. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now moving on to Thanksgiving, typically celebrated with big family dinners, was the latest major event in America to be altered by the coronavirus. More in the following report.
3, 2, 1, let's have a parade!
Rethinking rituals has never been much of a part of Thanksgiving, normally one of the biggest holidays in the United States. But in 2020, few things register as normal. 8 months after the pandemic erupted across the US, most major cities remain under strict rules. Many families resigned to meeting on video for turkey dinner. But despite advice from the Centers for Disease Control to stay home, nearly 6 million Americans traveled by air to see their loved ones. In Dallas, Texas, long lines of vehicles were seen at a rapid testing site ahead of the holiday.
We were seeing about maybe 150, 200 people a day. Now we're seeing upwards in topping and over 500 right now.
I don't want to get sick. Jan don't want to get sick, and I don't want to get anybody sick. And so we just had to do something different.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York, a spectacle of giant character balloons that has delighted children for nearly a century, was scaled back significantly. But there was good news too, as a 5th grader in Texas set out to collect 100,000 Thanksgiving meals for people in need.
All of the people that don't have jobs or don't have access to things like food and clothes and all of these essential things that we sometimes take for granted on Thanksgiving Day, which is really sad because one of the most memorable parts about Thanksgiving is the Thanksgiving meal. So knowing that I can help in just the smallest way makes me want to.
Experts fear that Thanksgiving gatherings could significantly boost a death toll that has exceeded 260,000 nationwide.
Football legend Diego Maradona has been buried amid a global outpouring of grief from the streets of Buenos Aires to Naples. Only around 24 relatives and close friends attended the final ceremony in Argentina. But Maradona's coffin, draped in Argentina's national flag and football shirt, was on public display at the presidential palace. Around 1 million turned out to pay their respects despite the threat of COVID-19. There were reports of tear gas and rubber bullets being used as officers and riot gear struggled to hold back the crowd. Maradona died of a heart attack on Wednesday, aged 60. And now moving on to the business stories, Australia says China's decision to impose preliminary tariffs on its wine is extremely disappointing. In a statement, Agriculture Minister David Littleproud said Canberra will vigorously fight the recent move by Beijing. Littleproud refuted China's claim that Australian wine producers are dumping products into China. He said there was no basis or any evidence for these claims. Earlier, Beijing announced it will impose temporary anti-dumping measures on wine imports from Canberra from November 28. China and Australia have been in a tariff war after Canberra banned Huawei's 5G network. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific are trading mixed as investors react to China's industrial profits data and global COVID-19 developments. Japan's Nikkei 225 has edged up, while the Topix index has added over 0.5%. Mainland Chinese shares and Seoul's Kospi have gained marginally. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index has risen just above the flat line, while shares in Australia are trading lower, with the ASX 200 shedding over 0.5%. Diego Maradona's former club Napoli have defeated Croatian side Rijeka 2-0 in the Europa League. The Napoli team took the field wearing number 10 shirts with the late footballer's name on the back. Matteo Politano opened the scoring for Napoli 4 minutes before the interval, and Hirvang Lozano doubled it in the second half. In another fixture, Portugal's Braga earned a draw in their match against Leicester City. Premier League leaders Tottenham Hotspur thrashed Bulgarian side Ludogorets 4-0. All teams competing in the group stage fixtures, including Tottenham, AC Milan, Bayer Leverkusen and Granada, paid homage to the legendary Argentine. Manchester United have conducted forensic investigations following a cyber attack on the Premier League club systems. The English club is also working with the National Cyber Security Centre to assess the damage. Last week, United revealed they shut down affected systems to protect data after a cyber attack. United said they had not identified a motive for the attack and rejected suggestions that the attackers still had control of the systems. The club's media channels, including the website and mobile app, were unaffected. Australia are batting against India in their first one-day international at Sydney Cricket Ground. The hosts won the toss on a surface where the average first innings score in the last 5 matches is 310 runs. Steve Smith is back in the team, replacing the injured Mitchell Marsh. Both teams observed a minute of silence in the memory of Australian cricketers Dean Jones and Philip Hughes. India are on a long tour in Australia consisting of 3 one-day internationals, 3 T20s and 4 test matches. South Africa have returned all clear results after a third round of COVID-19 testing before their opening match against England. The Proteas will be up against England at Newlands Cricket Ground in Cape Town in the first 2020 of the series. The 2 players who tested positive last week were not part of this group and remain in isolation. South Africa will be without Dwayne Pretorius, who suffered a hamstring injury during practice and will be out for a month. The 2 countries are scheduled to play 3 2020 international and 3 one-day internationals at Newlands and in Pearl. And now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.